I'm bringing you some information that took me nearly a year to figure out. Stay tuned. What is up, everybody? Kyle here at Let's Talk Wax. And in today's video, I'm going to try to bring you some information that took me a very long time to figure out when I first got into the prospecting hobby. Now, obviously, Bowman is the juggernaut in the prospecting industry. It has 3 major releases every year, and it's got 2 first edition releases. And they also put out different cards, first prospect cards and non-first prospect cards. And all that can get really confusing when you're first jumping into the hobby. So I'm going to break down each release, and I'm going to tell you the difference between non-first and first cards in this video, so you can start your prospecting journey a little quicker than I did. If you guys enjoy my content, if you guys enjoy prospects, Bowman Chrome baseball cards, Topps rookie cards, subscribe to my channel and help me reach my goal of 5,000 subscribers. I've also got a ton of exclusive content on my Patreon page, and I'll put a link to that in the description as well. Now, this is going to be a little bit of some basic information for guys who are already nose deep in the hobby, but if you stick around, you may learn something that you didn't know. And for all you new guys, it's really hard to put this information in video format, but I've got a lot of graphics that I think could help you understand easily. I wrote this article up for just baseball as well, so when that gets published, I'll share it with you guys. And if you're better with visual things, I'll have all the same images and the words in that article. So let's go ahead and dig into this thing, starting with the time frame, for each major release. So first edition drops in March, and after first edition, obviously, is Bowman Baseball in April. Then we have Bowman Chrome, which does not have a first edition release. The next major next product is Bowman Chrome or Bowman Draft First Edition, and the last release of the year for major releases is Bowman Draft. So if you look at this graphic, you can see the 3 major releases: Bowman Baseball, Bowman Chrome, and Bowman Draft. Draft has a first edition, and Bowman Baseball has a first edition. Also, you can see that the boxes are all different. Even though the cards look nearly identical, all the boxes are different for these 2021 releases. So don't get confused. I'm going to explain all the differences, and don't worry about the boxes. They're just there so you know what product you're getting into when you buy a wax. So let's start with Bowman First Edition. And Bowman First Edition and Bowman Draft First Edition are nearly identical releases except for the checklist. So they're both samples of the major release. And as you can see from the image below, 2021 Bowman First Edition cards are nearly identical to 2021 Bowman release, with the exception of the first edition stamp in the bottom left corner. And you can see it here on the Jose Salas cards. The first edition card has the foil stamp in the bottom left corner, and the Bowman cards do not have the foil stamp. Now, if you look in the top right corner, you'll notice that all of these cards are firsts. So keep that in mind. We're going to move on to more non-first and first information later. But the Bowman First Edition Prospect Checklist has 1 through 150 of the prospects that is identical to the Bowman Prospect Checklist. So the first edition release of Bowman and the regular release of Bowman are going to have the same prospect card checklist. Now, there are 3 major differences, though, that you have to consider between first edition and Bowman. First is the autograph checklist. First edition only has a handful of autos, and they're not relative to what's going to be on the main releases checklist. So the auto checklists are not going to be similar. The next major difference are the parallels. First edition will have foil parallels, and regular Bowman only has chrome parallels and paper parallels. So make sure you understand the difference between the parallels. Like I said, first edition is foil, and regular Bowman is going to be chrome parallels and paper parallels. And the third big difference with first edition versus regular Bowman is that there's no veteran cards in first edition. So when you buy a box of Bowman First Edition, you're not going to have any veterans. It's going to be all prospects. When you buy a box of Bowman Baseball that releases after first edition, you're going to have prospects and veterans. So keep that in mind, which is kind of a perk to first edition is you don't really waste any time with the veteran base. It's not worth anything. So it's all about prospects. And what I'm going to do to make this even easier is I'm going to put checklists to every release in the comments of this video. So you'll be able to go through and kind of, look at the checklist and navigate through them and see the major differences. It really becomes clear when you start putting like the first edition checklist and the Bowman checklist side by side, and you can see what I'm talking about to make things easier. So obviously after first edition, Bowman drops, and it's the first major release of the year. And like I said, it contains paper and veteran cards and a hodgepodge of prospect cards. So this may not make sense now, but it will after we go over all three major releases. So the Bowman release every year is kind of a mixture of all the guys that were left out of the previous year's draft and all the guys that were left out of the international signings, mixed with some guys who just kind of popped up. And that's why I say that the Bowman autograph checklist is kind of a hodgepodge of autos. It's all the leftovers from the previous year. And usually there's a lot of really good players on there, because they want to make it a good product since it's the first of the year. So let's go on to Bowman Chrome. Bowman Chrome does not have a first edition. It's just strictly on to Bowman Chrome. It's the second major release of the year, and its major compilation are international prospects. It also has some veterans in there, all Chrome cards, no paper, but all the prospects are really focused on the international market. So that's a big difference between, it's kind of what separates Bowman Chrome from Bowman and Draft, is that it's geared towards the international market or the international signees. And they'll throw a couple of different, names in there, but it's mainly that year's international pool that signed contracts to play in the MLB. And I'll put a checklist to that as well in the description. The next release is Bowman Draft First Edition. And we talked about Bowman First Edition. All of those same rules from Bowman First Edition you can apply to Bowman Draft First Edition. So the differences between the parallels, First Edition is foil, and Bowman Draft has chrome and paper. All those differences are the same. The autograph is going to be a handful of autographs in First Edition, and there's going to be a whole, 150 probably player autograph checklist in Bowman Draft. So I'm going to put links to those two checklists in the comments so you can take a look at those side by side and, see where the major differences are between Bowman First Edition Draft and Bowman Draft. And that's going to bring us to, our last release, our last major release of the year, Bowman Draft. So like I said, the first release, Bowman, is a hodgepodge of prospects. The second release, Bowman Chrome, is mainly the international market and the international players that were signed the previous year. And Bowman Draft, obviously, is geared towards all the players that were drafted in the past year. And it's one of the hottest prospects every year. And usually if you can pre-order some Bowman Draft and wait like a week after release, it's going to almost bring you back 50% return on investment immediately, just because it's such a hot product. It's really a buy and hold product for me to stack on the shelf. And the other great thing about it is it's the only release of the year that does not contain veteran base. And no one buys Bowman for veteran base because it's nearly worthless. And if you're looking for veterans, Topps kind of has that market on lockdown, and other releases through Topps. But Bowman's all about prospects, and when you buy Bowman Draft, you don't get any veterans. It's all prospects. So huge. It really pumps the draft market up. And that's the third and final release. So like I said, in this image you can see I put one card from each release up there. Every card is the exact same format pretty much, except for the first edition cards will have that little first edition stamp on the bottom left corner. And every box is different. So even though the boxes are different, the cards are not. So keep that in mind. Now, as far as value goes, I get this question a lot too. What's the pecking order, Bowman First Edition or the Bowman Chrome? It's really dependent on the market. The Bowman Draft First Edition cards hold a little more value than the Bowman Chrome. And I looked up comps on Marcelo Mayer's his draft cards. So his Bowman Draft First Edition first was selling for $15. His Bowman Draft First Chrome was selling for $10, and his Bowman Draft First Paper was selling for around $3. So that kind of gives you an idea of what the market is like on the different releases. All right, now we're going to move over to the difference between first and non-first. And actually, we're going to talk to you about Bowman First Edition first. And it's super confusing, but hopefully I can iron all this out for you guys, and you won't be buying cards and wasting your money on stuff you don't want. So in this picture, there are 4 Wander Franco cards, all right? And only one of them is really only one of them is his most valuable card. His most valuable card is number 2. And why is that? Because it has the first chrome stamp in the top left corner. His first chrome auto, and like Bowman does with all their releases, they stack prospects throughout the releases. The very first prospect card that they will have this first stamp in the top left corner that I circled in red here. And other cards of the same player that are released in different products will not have that stamp. And those are the cards you do not want. You want the cards that have the first chrome stamp in that top left corner, because those are the most valuable. So don't get confused. Bowman does it with every release. They reuse prospects for their checklist. Like the picture on the thumbnail, the Volpe cards, there's tons of Anthony Volpe cards, but only one first chrome. So you want to be aware of that. Now we're going to take a look at first edition first. And we're going to go back to the Volpe cards here. And we're going to look at this image, and you can obviously see the difference between the two cards. Now, the most valuable Volpe has the first Bowman in the top left corner and the first edition stamp. And the second Volpe just has the first edition stamp. So they reuse prospects not only in the major releases, they reuse prospects in the first edition releases. So when you hear a Bowman first edition first, it's about the Anthony Volpe on the left. Now, the Anthony Volpe on the right is still a first edition card, but it's not his Bowman first. So it's not going to hold as much value as the card on the left that has the first edition and the first Bowman stamp on it. And I know that is super confusing stuff, but hopefully I've cleared that up for a little bit. If you guys have any questions, be sure to check it out. Be sure to post it in the comments. And if I can help in any way, I'll try to help as much as I can. Because like I said, I really got lost in this web when I first started collecting. And I spent a lot of money on stuff that was really hard to get rid of because there's not a lot of demand for non-first stuff. So understand your different releases. Understand what you're looking for in those releases. And understand that the Bowman first cards are always the most valuable. And if you don't see the first stamp, I wouldn't put money on it. And now there are some cards, and I probably shouldn't even go here because there are some cards that have non-first autos, and it's a slippery slope with all that. But there's not many cards that fall into that category. So that's going to end up this video. Like I said, if you guys enjoy this content, if you guys are into prospecting and you're into baseball cards and Bowman products and Topps products and all the fun stuff, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. It helps me out a lot. And I have a ton of exclusive content at my Patreon page. I break down every Bowman release every year, and I put a little write-up on there. I put their stats. And I'll be doing one for the upcoming release of 2022 Bowman, which is going to drop at the end of April, hopefully. And as always, I'm glad I can help you guys. If I did, y'all take it easy. Have a good day.